I'll start with an open statement of admiration for Idaho State, the way they played, their game plan. They had us on the ropes there right from the start. We're able to get their run game going, and we didn't adjust quickly enough, dug too big of a hole, and I thought when we had some chances to really get them on the ropes there, we didn't take advantage of that. Sloppy overall throughout the whole game, just kept us from digging out of a hole. I made the first big mistake of the game would be going for it on 4th and 1, and I thought that was a play that we had. We had seen that they would bring their punt return team in that part of the field, and I thought we might be able to get them on a substitution error, and that didn't work out. We also felt good about the play offensively, and we didn't execute. Looked like they got a great jump on the play, and we're in our backfield before we could react. Let me put it that way. But that call didn't work, and that was an aggressive call by me that didn't work, put us in a hole. We had mistakes offensively and defensively that put us in a hole, and we're just not able to get our running game going well enough to create any kind of balance right now in our offense. So we have the ability to pass the football, but not enough to sustain drives when it's just obvious that we're throwing the football. And I think we've seen that over the course of the first part of the season here, is that we've got to just keep striving to be a little more balanced. That's our challenge to come together as a football team, is to play solid defense for 4 quarters, find a way to get some type of balance, or at least not be too predictable. And we got pretty predictable today. And in once that happened, the turnovers and a couple of offsides mistakes, we gave up at the end of the first half there in the 2-minute drill, chance to close it to essentially a tie game or a 3-point game. We have a 2nd and 1, and we take a sack. It's kind of inexcusable from a coaching and player execution standpoint right there. That stuff really hurt us. Idaho State was on point the whole game, controlled the whole game, never quite let it get close. I would have liked to get it a little closer and see if we could have made it a little bit more of a game. Well, the first is I believe in Eric, and our team believes in Eric, and I think that's got to be said because you asked for an assessment of his performance. And we had a couple of mistakes there with the fumble, which was kind of, there are fumbles that happen when you're playing hard and doing things right. We weren't carrying the football correctly. Had the ball swinging all over the place. The whole sidelines yelling, "Put it away!" 2 hands on it, etc. And he had carried it haphazardly in that moment. So that's the one he'll remember. That's the one he'll regret. There's a lot to build on with him. He's able to get the ball out to some really good receivers. Felt like we had some good matchups tonight. And like I said, if we could have ever forced Idaho State to be in a little more of a basic system of defense where they had to defend the run and pass, I think we could have really got our pass game going even better. Eric's a big part of that going forward, but we've got to help him up front. We've got to be able to run the football once in a while with I think we're 1.1 yards per carry today. They're just not going to win. Sometimes the college football numbers get skewed with the sacks, but it was still, even we take the sacks out of there, it was an unacceptable rushing performance. Sure, it is both, and I would add a third element. There's coaching involved with technique and scheme, and I thought that Idaho State had a good plan for our 3-man front, for what we call our odd front, and they were able to run the ball successfully into that. We felt like if we could stop the run in that front, that we would be successful in the game, because we felt like they would have a really hard time throwing the football, and they did. We had success in that front when they threw the football, but they were smart enough to counterpunch and not throw the football against that front. So they win that battle. We were doing some things incorrectly from a front mechanic standpoint that I think hurt our ability to stop the run in the odd front. So we just didn't execute it well, and that's on players and coaches. And I can't not give Idaho State's players credit for blocking us. They blocked us, and they ran hard, and they deserve credit for that too. Yeah, Rocco's out, Hank's out.
It's a good moment for you guys.
Good portion of our O-line. Yeah, we are pretty banged up. I made the comment earlier in the week. Idaho State started out with 3 straight road games and had a lot of minor injuries, not season enders. And then they had the bye week, and then they were pretty overmatched, or Lincoln was overmatched in that game. So they really had a chance to regroup, and they played fast and hard today. And I felt like we were still, a bit fatigued, and from 3 tough road trips in a row with close games, all 4 quarters. We haven't had a chance to empty our benches at any point. It's been, every game's been really tooth and nail right down to the end for us, and we may have hit a bit of a wall with that today. Yeah, I think he's been a real leader for us. He's not, I don't think he's strived to be a vocal leader. He's not afraid to say something, but he just, I think the way he sees himself is to go out and make plays for himself, his teammates, and his family, and he does that consistently, over and over, makes tough, difficult catches. I think he's raising the level of play of the guys around him. We saw some Carver Cheeks-like catches from Dawson Menegatti, from Matthias Price, cut it over the top of a defender. Those are really tough catches, and I was really questioning the officials on a lot of those, because I thought they could have been catches and flags. I felt like the defenders weren't playing the ball very well, but the explanations I got were that they're just, there was a lot of contact and the defender might not be turned around, but there's not enough material restriction there. And I think the only reason I'm bringing that up is because, for our guys to kind of put up with that aggressive style of defensive back play and still come down with the catch, really impressed by that. And I think the officials are probably right. There's not a lot of material restriction. The Idaho State players were playing right to that edge, and that's commendable. Sure. Well, the first thing I'd say, I think our team realizes that, the rankings still at this point in FCS football have a lot to do with the previous years. I said it earlier in the week, I believe today, this game right here is just as likely to be the championship game as Idaho against Montana today, and that's the one everybody's paying attention to, and good for their programs, but it's, those guys are largely have earned media attention from years past. I feel like Idaho State's a very good football team. I feel like if anyone in the FCS had their resume to this point and had played 2 of the hottest teams in the West and the Mountain West to that close, then they would have be getting some votes in the top 25. So, tons of respect for Idaho and everything they're doing, but it's 2 weeks away, and I feel like we just played a very good opponent too, and we had our opportunities to be successful, and I believe that we'll have our opportunities in every game down the stretch. We do need to get better. We do need to pivot and find a way to to crack the 20-point barrier on offense more consistently. But there's a lot to build on, and I believe we will.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, we're still a young team and dealing with a few injuries today, and so the thing that I really will take out of this game, especially in hindsight as the weeks go by, is that our team's really fought every time they've stepped on the field. Has been willing to fight till the end. We have a defense that strains and tries incredibly hard and keeps us in games, and we have an offense that's capable. We just I don't know if we're pushing the right buttons, and we got to put that on us as coaches, and we have to articulate that to the players, not point fingers at them. It's easy to go in there and say, I want 100 points every game. I don't know what good that does. We have our part in that too as coaches. So to answer your question directly, I feel just like I felt before the game. We got a team that'll battle to the end. As coaches, it's incumbent upon us to bring the best out of them. We didn't do that today, whether that's schematically, technically, or the way that we actually performed. We have something to do with that too. We got to take it on us first and show that leadership.
Coach, tough battle in the trenches today. They ran for over 200 yards, offensively and defensively. How do you prepare yourself for what's obviously going to be a tough battle in a couple weeks with Idaho in those trenches?
Yeah, like I said, I think the priority number one for us is going to be we've got to run the football. We have to show up in the trenches, and we don't have to lead the league in rushing, or it's not a certain number of attempts, but just run game efficiency to keep the defense honest. We were, when we started to pivot today more to the passing game, I think you saw a lot of success. And then, counterpunch by Idaho State is, okay, well, let's get in a few more pass-type defenses, pass-first defenses. And then we still weren't able to sprinkle that run in quite efficiently enough to keep them off balance. And so we end up throwing the ball into pass sets, defensive linemen that are teeing off a little more gap penetration, with a little more gap penetration in mind, defensive backs who are playing with a little more attention to the passing game, not having to respect the run game as much. And I think what you saw is it gets tougher and tougher and tougher, and it gets tougher as the field condenses. I mean, Idaho State relies a lot on the pass game too. As good as they were at in the run game tonight against us, for pass first teams, it can be really difficult to punch the ball in the red zone, and that's where we had some struggles as well tonight. We've got to fix it.